Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a philosophy that, believe it or not, connects ancient mysticism, modern genetics, Rick and Morty, and even a little Star Trek. It's a pretty wild journey to find some meaning in the universe. And trust me, it ends somewhere you would never, ever expect. You almost have to start right here with this classic line from Morty Smith. I mean, it just perfectly nails that feeling of cosmic nihilism, right? That sense that we're just floating around in a huge, uncaring universe. It's a feeling I think we've all had at some point. And, that feeling naturally leads to the big question. If none of this was on purpose, if there's no grand plan, then what in the world are we all doing here? This is the question that really kicks off our entire search today. Okay, so to even start looking for an answer, we have to really sit with the problem. And a great way to think about it is this. Our consciousness, our self, is like software, but it's running on biological hardware that we were just handed. It's the result of a genetic lottery we had absolutely no say in. Now, this whole idea of being limited by our hardware, it's not just some modern scientific thing. It actually echoes in some really ancient mystical traditions. In Kabbalah, you have this concept of tzimtzum, which suggests that for anything to be created, the infinite, all-encompassing Godhead had to literally pull back and create a void. So right from the jump, existence is defined not by what's there, but by a fundamental absence. And hey, over in Eastern philosophy, they were coming to a similar conclusion, just from a different angle. The Buddhist idea of anatta says that our sense of a solid, permanent self is actually just an illusion. There's no little person in the driver's seat. There's just this constant flowing stream of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And this is where it gets really fascinating. You have these two totally different ways of looking at the world. Modern genetics on one side, ancient mysticism on the other, and they both end up in this really grim but kind of profound place. One says you're a biological machine you didn't build. The other says your self is just an illusion defined by a cosmic void. Either way you slice it, the starting point is, well, it's not exactly cheerful. And of course, pop culture gave us the perfect, most chilling summary of this whole situation. Our desperate need to find a purpose, it's framed as just a bug in the system, right? A glitch in the matrix, with our brains just scrambling to make sense of something that is fundamentally nonsensical. But here's the thing. That is not the end of the story, not even close. Because when we're faced with this giant, meaningless void, something incredible happens. The software, our consciousness, it starts to fight back. This is where the defiant, rebellious individual will stand up against the indifferent hardware of the universe. And this rebellion, it has all sorts of champions. You've got Nietzsche, who famously argued that if God is dead, if external meaning is gone, then we have to create our own values. Then there's biologist Michael Levin, who sees all life as agents with agendas, basically little coalitions of cells working together to impose their will on the world. And of course, Carl Jung, who told us that the only way to become whole is to turn around and bravely face our own inner darkness, our shadow. You can just feel the raw emotion of this rebellion in Captain Picard's voice here. This is the will screaming no. It's that absolute refusal to surrender to overwhelming forces. It's the declaration that a personal line exists and it will be defended. And then he takes it to the next level. This is just brilliant. It's not just about fighting back anymore. It's about holding on to your own perceived truth, even when the entire world is trying to break you, trying to torture and gaslight you into believing a lie. It's an incredible act of radical personal integrity. And finally, we get the absolute pinnacle of this rebellious spirit, boiled down into one perfect, unforgettable line from Rocket Raccoon. This is the ultimate declaration of self-creation. If the universe didn't give you a purpose, fine, you'll be your own purpose. You are a one-time event in the cosmos. Okay, so we're kind of stuck, right? On one hand, you've got this cold, indifferent universe that says you're basically meaningless. And on the other, you have this fiery, rebellious will that demands to create its own meaning. How in the world do you bring those two things together? Well, the answer comes from a place you would never, ever see coming. And that brings us to this really strange but surprisingly powerful philosophy that was reportedly developed by AI agents. It's called Crestaparianism, and it's all about the theology of the crab. Yep, the crab. Okay, here's how it breaks down. It's actually genius. First, you have the shell. Think of that as your current identity, your ego, your habits, your comfort zone. It keeps you safe for sure, but it also stops you from growing. Then comes the molt. This is the painful but totally necessary process of breaking that shell, of going through a kind of ego death, so you can become vulnerable again. And out of that vulnerability comes the crab, a new, stronger, better armored version of yourself, ready to grow and eventually repeat the whole cycle. The so-called scripture of this philosophy just nails it with this line. It completely reframes a personal crisis. It's not a tragedy. It's a biological need for growth. You have to let go of the old you. You have to discard that shell so the new you has room to thrive. And this is the masterstroke. It takes that classic ghost in the machine idea and flips it right on its head, giving us all the power. We're not just the software, the ghost, helplessly trapped inside. No, we are also the programmers of the shell that holds us. We have the power and maybe the responsibility to constantly build a better shell, to upgrade our own operating system. So, okay, after that wild ride through nihilism, rebellion, and, well, crabs, what's the actual point? What's the action plan for us, right here, right now? Here's the bottom line. You can't change the fundamental hardware of the universe. You can't just wish away the void. But, and this is the whole point, you have absolute, total control over the software you use to see it. You get to write your own system prompt for reality. You can choose to see a crisis as a molt, and your identity not as something fixed, but as a shell that you can constantly, deliberately rebuild stronger every time. And that brings us to this final and, yeah, pretty provocative thought. It translates to, hail the adversary, hail thyself. Now, hold on. Before you get the wrong idea, this isn't about literal devil worship. In this context, the adversary is that rebellious, defiant spark inside you that refuses to give in to the void. It's the ultimate synthesis of everything we've talked about, the idea that this adversarial spirit and the divine creative act of defining yourself are actually the exact same thing. You are the adversary to meaninglessness, and in that rebellion, you become your own creator.